Welcome to this online worship service of the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock. I'm Reverend Jaye Brooks, a minister of this congregation, along with Reverend Jennifer Brower and the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore. Ours is a religious tradition that embraces the wisdom of all faiths and that values diversity. We believe in using science, reason, and the gifts of the Spirit to explore life's meaning and mystery. One of our grounding principles is the inherent worth of every human being. Today's service celebrates the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His words are the foundation for today's exploration of how his ideas have vitality and meaning for the 21st century. Today, we especially welcome the participation of a representative of the Coalition for Immokalee Workers and the poet, educator, and author Clint Smith. Let us turn our thoughts today to Martin Luther King.
Let us turn our thoughts today to Martin Luther King and recognize that we have ties between us, all men and women living on the earth, ties of hope and love, sister and brotherhood, that we are bound together in our desire to see the world become a place in which our children can grow free and strong. We are bound together by the task that stands before us and the road that lies ahead. We are bound and we are bound. There is a feeling like the clenching of a fist. There is a hunger in the center of the chest. There is a passage through the darkness and the mist. And though the body sleeps, the heart will never rest. Shed a little light, oh Lord. Shed a little light, oh Lord, so that we can see for now. Just a little light, oh Lord. Just a little light, oh Lord. Wanna stand it on up, stand it on up, oh stand it on up, oh Lord. Yeah now, wanna walk it on down. Won't you shed a little light, oh Lord. Can't get no light from a dollar bill. Don't give me no light from a TV screen. No, 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 no. When I open my eyes, I wanna drink my fill from the well on the hill. There is a feeling like the clenching of a fist. There is a hunger in the center of the chest. There is a passage through the darkness and the mist. body sleeps, the heart will never rest. Shed a little light, oh Lord. Shed a little light, oh Lord. So that we can see, so that we can see. Just a little light, oh Lord. Just a little light. Stand it on up, stand it on up, stand it on up, oh Lord. Yeah, now. Wanna walk it on down. Won't you shed a little light, oh Lord. 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 So that we can see, so that we can see. Just a little light, oh Lord. Just a little light now. Wanna stand it on up. Wanna stand it on up. Stand it on up, oh Lord. Stand it on up, oh Lord. Walk it on down. Won't you shed a little light, oh Lord. Shed a little light, oh Lord. Shed a little light, oh Lord. Won't you shed a little light, oh Lord. Shed a little light, oh Lord. Won't you shed a little light. Shed a little light, oh Lord.
First in the heart is the dream. Then the mind starts seeking a way. The eyes look out on the world, on the great wooded world, on the rich soil of the world, of the rivers of the world. The eyes see their materials for building, see the difficulties too, and the obstacles. The mind seeks a way to overcome these obstacles. The hand seeks tools to cut the wood, to till the soil and harness the power of the waters. Then the hand seeks other hands to help, a community of hands to help. Thus the dream becomes not one man's dream alone, but a community dream. Not my dream alone, but our dream. Not my world alone, but your world and my world, belonging to all the hands who build.
Each Sunday, we light the chalice of our religious heritage. We do this for our ancestors, who taught us out of their various religious traditions and their actions for justice and hope. We do this for our children, who are learning the traditions we teach and who learn more from our actions than our words. We do this for ourselves, to remind us of who we are and who we seek to become. This flame symbolizes the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment.
All this year, in lifespan religious education classes and in children's worship for all ages, we have been exploring themes of justice. Our children, youth, and adults are learning to notice when people are being treated unfairly and to speak up. Oftentimes, we, as Unitarian Universalists, are called to practice Dr. King's philosophy of nonviolent protest and rally together with like-hearted people to publicly demonstrate our mission to build a just and joyful world for all. To cause what my colleague, Aisha Hauser, calls a holy disruption. Some may say that raising our voices flies in the face of our parallel calling to be kind and loving. But there is nothing more kind than living our faith in action in solidarity against injustice. Nothing more loving than taking to the streets to chant, "Black Lives Matter." Love is love. Science is real. No human is illegal. All genders are sacred. And there is nothing more joyful than my personal favorite expression of our principles, singing protest songs, like this one.
If you see something that's wrong, raise your hand and say that's wrong. Point it out and name that thing by its name. Don't stand by and stare. If it's wrong, it's your affair. Don't be quiet, make a riot, be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. Ignore the crowd and go against the grain. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. When Rosa Parks sat on that bus, she chose to make a fuss. She chose to break the rules and take the blame. Her choice to sit and fight helped to bring on civil rights, because one strong woman chose to be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. If they say you have to move, say I'll remain. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Harvey Milk, he chose to run for the council board and won, even though folks said you can't because you're gay. One brave LGBTQ elected leader ran and knew you can change things if you choose to be a pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. Tell them I won't let you make me feel ashamed. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Tennis star named Billie Jean told the world she had a dream that men and women would be paid the same. She refused to hit that ball till there was equal pay for all. She was a king because she was a royal pain. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. If they refuse to pay, refuse to play the game. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Kids from Parkland led the fight for something they all knew was right. They said it's time for us to finally make a change. If adults can't compromise, we must go march for our lives. They spoke out and led the charge. They all were pains. Be a pain, shout about it and complain. When you're faced with laws you know are just insane. Don't be polite, raise your voice and do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Oh, be a pain, be
I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Martin Luther King's dream is a dream for all people, not his dream or my dream or your dream, but our dream. Today, as our nation struggles toward that dream, we struggle toward a future that our UU principles envision, one in which every person is treated with respect and in which every person's potential can flourish. Each Sunday during these months of pandemic, we've taken a special collection to benefit those most affected by COVID-19. Today, we invite contributions to ABBA's job training program. The pandemic has left many people unemployed or underemployed, yet for people who qualify, there are still entry-level positions in the construction trades. ABBA's program provides the OSHA certification needed to qualify for these positions. Job training for one person costs about $300. Today, we invite people who have the resources to make a contribution toward the cost of job training. ABBA hopes to train 50 people. And because we continue to be physically distant to protect public health, contributions must be made online. There are 3 ways to donate. If you choose to donate through our website, click on Donate in the menu bar and follow the instructions to arrive at Special Collection. Fair employment opportunity was one part of Dr. King's dream. May it be part of our dream too. And as we live our values into the future, may that dream become reality. In the meantime, please give as you are able to benefit those who need job training.
I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. I believe that even amid today's motorbus and whining bullets, there is still hope for a brighter tomorrow. I believe that wounded justice, lying prostrate on the blood-flowing streets of our nations, can be lifted from this dust of shame to reign supreme among the children of men. I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. I believe that what self-centered men have torn down, men other-centered can build up. I still believe that one day mankind will bow before the altars of God and be crowned triumphant over war and bloodshed, and non-violent redemptive goodwill will proclaim the rule of the land. I still believe that we shall overcome. This faith can give us courage to face the uncertainties of the future. It will give our tired feet new strength as we continue our forward stride toward the city of freedom. When our days become dreary with low hovering clouds, and our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, we will know that we are living in the creative turmoil of a genuine civilization struggling to be born.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. That which touches me most is that I had a chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
We will not rest, the song goes, until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. The song reminds us that all the people who are killed or injured through injustice are someone's children. The civil rights movement of the 20th century was a response to the casual and daily violence that black communities experienced at the hands of the whites who had power over them, and a response as well to the almost total absence of opportunities for education and employment for brown and black people. The legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King connects with today's movements for racial and economic justice through 4 fundamental principles: direct action, effective communication, the power of local organizing, and underlying these strategies, nonviolent resistance. Direct action, demonstrations, vigils, rallies, and boycotts are designed to make the issues visible. Like the song says, be a pain. Direct action is designed to raise awareness for the majority of American citizens, especially white Americans, who may not know what's happening to black citizens. Black Lives Matter was founded in 2013 in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer. And after the on-camera killing of George Floyd, and despite the pandemic Rallies, marches, and vigils all across America engaged a multiracial coalition of Americans to demand an end to the recurring violence against Black people. Effective communication was a key strategy of the mid-20th century civil rights movement. The movement's leaders hoped that the presence of reporters and photographers would make evident the willful violence against Black citizens. In Martin Luther King's time, the movement had to rely on the reporters and photographers who worked for national news outlets and the only three television broadcast channels. Today, ordinary people have cameras in their pockets. Bystanders take video of violent reactions to peaceful demonstrators and live stream those videos to Facebook or Twitter. The power of local organizing engages local people on local issues that affect them directly. It builds on the knowledge of people who know their locality and can best design direct action that will make a difference and engage the empathy and support of the general public. The Black Lives Matter Project has grown into a member-led global network of more than 40 chapters that organize and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities. Another successful organizing effort is the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, one of this congregation's VEACH program grantees.
De hecho, los que practicamos la acción directa no violenta no somos los creadores de la tensión, sino que los limitamos a hacer aflorar una tensión oculta que ya estaba ahí presente. La sacamos a la luz, donde se le puede ver y se puede lidiar con ella, como una ampolla que no puede curarse si se le mantiene tapada, sino que debe destaparse para que exponga toda su fealdad a esas medicinas naturales que son el aire y la luz. La injusticia también debe ser expuesta con toda la tensión que su exposición provoca, a la luz de la conciencia de los hombres y al aire de la exposición pública de la nación, si es que queremos curarla. En nuestra generación no vamos a tener que arrepentirnos solo por las odiosas palabras y acciones de la gente de mala voluntad, sino también por el atroz silencio de las buenas personas. El progreso humano no llega nunca sobre ruedas del destino. Se produce gracias al esfuerzo incansable de los hombres que están dispuestos a colaborar con Dios. Y sin este duro esfuerzo, el propio tiempo se convierte en un aliado de las fuerzas del estancamiento. Debemos utilizar el tiempo creativamente, sabiendo que siempre es un buen momento para actuar de forma correcta. Ahora es el momento de hacer que se cumplan las promesas de democracia y de transformar nuestra actual elegía nacional en un creativo salmo de hermandad. Ahora es el momento de elevar las políticas de esta nación, sacarlas de las arenas movedizas de la injusticia racial y asentándolas sobre la firme roca de la dignidad humana.
Founded in 1993, the Coalition is an internationally recognized worker-based human rights organization. Its initial achievements were in preventing human trafficking and gender-based violence, efforts that continue today. More recently, the Coalition's Fair Food program is organizing to create economic justice for migrant farm workers. Worker-to-worker education sessions inform workers about their rights and the Fair Labor Code of Conduct that the Coalition seeks to put in place. Through direct actions like consumer boycotts across the nation, the Coalition has developed a safety net of fair food agreements with participating buyers who commit to buy Florida tomatoes only from growers who comply with the Code of Conduct. Dr. King knew that the key to building a more just society is the power of the vote. The 1963 march from Montgomery to Selma was centered on voting rights for Black Americans. More than 50 years later, the power of the ballot box is not only very clear, it's still in contention. We've learned that change in America isn't just about mobilizing voters. It's about preventing the suppression of the Black vote. One of our VEACH program grantees is Black Voters Matter. This group organizes at the local level to mobilize Black voters so that they can have a voice in the government of the communities in which they live. Black voters in Georgia made history with record-breaking turnout in the Senate runoff elections. Black voters waited in line for hours to cast ballots. They faced down agitators at the polls and fought blatant efforts to suppress their votes. Increasing voter registration and turnout is part of the effort, but only the more visible aspect of the work. Black Voters Matter helps local, predominantly Black communities build infrastructure where little or none exists. Staff training, candidate development, and network development. All of these organizing efforts are ways to leverage the power of the people to prevent harm to themselves and their communities.
In focusing the attention of the nation and the world today on the flagrant denial of the right to vote, we are exposing the very origin, the root cause of racial segregation in the Southland. Today, I want to tell the city of Selma. Today, I want to say to the state of the world that we are not about to turn around. We are on the move now. Yes, we are on the move, and no wave of racism can stop us. We are on the move now. Let us therefore continue our triumphant march to the realization of the American dream. Let us march on ballot boxes until race baiters disappear from the political arena. Let us march on ballot boxes until the misdeeds of mobs will be transformed into the calculated good deeds of orderly citizens. Let us march on ballot boxes until we send to our city councils, state legislatures, and the United States Congress men who will not fear to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. Let us march on ballot boxes until brotherhood becomes more than a meaningless word in an opening prayer, but the order of the day on every legislative agenda. Let us march on ballot boxes until all God's children will be able to walk the earth in decency and honor.
Young people come first. They have the courage where we failed. And if I can but shed some light as they carry us through the gale, the older I get, the better I know that the secret of my going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young who dare to run against the storm. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
Nonviolent resistance was a centerpiece of the mid-1960s civil rights movement. Gandhi inspired Dr. King. Dr. King was committed to nonviolence in resistance to violence. It started out as a strategy, but evolved for him personally into a theology. Unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word. Dr. King and the Southern Christian Leadership Council were aware that the reaction to peaceful demonstrations might be violence. They intentionally chose to train demonstrators in nonviolent response to any violent reactions they might encounter. In today's world, Black Lives Matter demonstrations have been overwhelmingly peaceful, according to both academic studies and investigative reporting. When violence does occur, it's typically the reaction of police or counter-protesters, just as was in Dr. King's time. In contrast, consider the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. White, self-described revolutionaries, after a buildup of days of social media talk about storming the Capitol, broke into the building and overwhelmed the Capitol Police. The insurgents carried Confederate flags and shouted that they would kill the vice president if he didn't change the results of the election. Many of them carried guns. They had even raised a gallows, an implicit threat to hang the vice president and anyone else who would not bow to their insistence on reversing the results of the election. These actions are the polar opposite of the nonviolence that is the legacy of Dr. King in the struggle for Black civil rights, the legacy of the idea that nonviolent, redemptive goodwill will proclaim the rule of the land. Black voters matter. And if any of us had any doubt about the differential treatment of demonstrators for Black lives, consider the contrast in the authorities' response to the storming of the Capitol. There was little resistance to the violent assault on the Capitol if the January 6th protesters had been Black. They would have been treated very differently. But one of the important facts about this moment is that it played out in the public view. People everywhere saw the violence of the attack on the Capitol. They saw the tepid, at times seemingly complicit response of those tasked with protecting the people's house. They began to grasp the depth of the forces at work, stoking the flames of violence in support of white supremacy. The mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, noting the difference, said that people coming to demonstrate peacefully are very different from the people who stormed the Capitol. In response to the events of January 6th, the Movement for Black Lives issued a statement saying that what played out in the halls of Congress is a testament to the fact that we are changing the balance of power in this country. In Dr. King's words, we are living in the creative turmoil of a genuine civilization struggling to be born.
Más allá de Vietnam, 1967, algunos de nosotros que ya hemos comenzado a romper el silencio de la noche, hemos descubierto que el llamado a hablar a menudo es una vocación de agonía, pero debemos hablar.
Not needing to clutch for power, not needing light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand against tyranny. Struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to struggle survives. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
In an effort to create a culture within my classroom where students feel safe sharing the intimacies of their own silences, I have 4 core principles posted on the board that sits in the front of my class, which every student signs at the beginning of the year. Read critically, write consciously, speak clearly, tell your truth. I find myself thinking a lot about that last point, tell your truth. And I realized that if I was going to ask my students to speak up, I was going to have to tell my truth and be honest with them about the times where I failed to do so. So I'd tell them that growing up, as a kid in a Catholic family in New Orleans, during Lent, I was always taught that the most meaningful thing one could do was to give something up, sacrifice something you typically indulge in to prove to God you understand His sanctity. I've given up soda, McDonald's, French fries, French kisses, and everything in between. But one year, I gave up speaking. Figured the most valuable thing I could sacrifice was my own voice, but it was like I hadn't realized that I had given that up a long time ago. I had spent so much of my life telling people the things they wanted to hear instead of the things they needed to, told myself I wasn't meant to be anyone's conscience because I still had to figure out being my own, so sometimes I just wouldn't say anything, appeasing ignorance with my silence, unaware that validation doesn't need words to endorse its existence. When Christian was beat up for being gay, I put my hands in my pocket and walked with my head down as if I didn't even notice. Couldn't use my locker for weeks because the bolt on the lock reminded me of the one I had put on my lips when the homeless man on the corner looked at me with eyes up, merely searching for an affirmation that he was worth seeing. I was more concerned with touching the screen of my Apple than actually feeding him one. When the woman at the fundraising gala said, "I'm so proud of you. It must be so hard teaching those poor, unintelligent kids," I bit my lip because apparently we needed her money more than my students needed their dignity. We spend so much time listening to the things people are saying that we rarely pay attention to the things they don't. Silence is the residue of fear. It is feeling your flaws gut-wrench guillotine your tongue. It is the air retreating from your chest because it doesn't feel safe in your lungs. Silence is Rwandan genocide. Silence is Katrina. It is what you hear when there aren't enough body bags left. It is the sound after the noose is already tied. It is charring. It is chains. It is privilege. It is pain. There is no time to pick your battles when your battles have already picked you. I will not let silence wrap itself around my indecision. I will tell Christian that he is a lion, a sanctuary of bravery and brilliance. I will ask that homeless man what his name is and how his day was, because sometimes all people want to be is human. I will tell that woman that my students can talk about transcendentalism like their last name was Thoreau, and just because you watch one episode of The Wire doesn't mean you know anything about my kids. So this year, instead of giving something up, I will live every day as if there were a microphone tucked under my tongue, a stage on the underside of my inhibition. Because who has to have a soapbox when all you've ever needed is your voice?
I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. Sometimes I can be quite difficult. I bow to no man's word. Oh, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. All our voices must be heard. Those of us who are confident that we can make our voices heard must not be silent, and we must also lift up the voices that the interests of power and privilege have muted or silenced. The dream is not my dream or your dream. It is our dream. And most of all, it is the dream of people whose dream has long been denied. As Unitarian Universalists who affirm the inherent worth of every person, who pledge ourselves to equity and justice in human relations, may we not rest until America is a land of liberty and justice for all. Let us together build the world the dreamers dreamed. Now we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into all the world.